Coming to you from the mobile Hudson Media Group studio, right here in the Uribe compound, this is Talking Politics, and I am the Professor Fernando Uribe. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just when I think that liberals and today's cancel culture and the annoying woke mob can get any more ridiculous, you can always depend on these fools to sort of one-up themselves each week with their latest brand of stupidity. Now, for the record, I am Latino. I'm not Latinx, okay? There's either Latino or Latina, folks. I passed high school biology. For some of you out there that maybe still struggle with it, I don't know, either retake the course, go on YouTube, watch some videos, or just Google some basic biology curriculum or literature. And you'll realize that this whole social engineering nonsense is exactly that, nonsense. If you took high school biology and passed it like I did, you would know there are only two genders. And regardless of this sort of, left-wing progressive stupidity that we're inundated with in our political climate, here's just one more thing that social justice clowns and woke fools continue to aggravate us with. And that's now in the marketplace. Now, let me just say this to you right now, folks. I'm Hispanic, and I grew up on Goya products like many did right here in Hudson County, specifically in the Hispanic community. So when all of a sudden I see people getting triggered by the CEO of Goya, I have to laugh. So whether it's idiots like U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, when she says that she wants to destroy a company that's been around for over 85 years over political differences, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this sort of suppression and free speech is the exact reason why my mother, my aunt, my grandfather, and my grandmother left communist Cuba. It's women like AOC and the annoying members of the squad, whether it's Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, or Rashida Tlaib, four of probably the most insufferable women to ever serve in public office, whether it's them or other leftist colleagues or fanatics, you know what? They're the reason that today's political climate is so toxic. I know what you're going to say. Well, Fernando, conservatives can be just as guilty as well. And I get that. All right. After the Colin Kaepernick controversy in the NFL, when he decided to take a knee during the playing of the national anthem, of course, many people denounced Nike for endorsing him and said, you know what, we're not going to buy Nike products. That's one thing. And that's probably one example I can think of in recent years. But when it comes to today's cancel culture, ladies and gentlemen, it's perpetuated completely by the left. And as I'm about to explain to you, here's just one more example. And of course, as I've said on this program, and I'll continue to say, that's the truth, folks. That is what makes liberalism so toxic. So when you see today's narrative by social justice clowns and the woke fools that are encompassing our political climate, I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm here to give you a breath of relief. And I'm here to talk some sense into a lot of people that subscribe to the lunacy that is liberalism. So when the CEO of Goya Foods and its president as well, Bob Ununue, recently visited the White House to speak with President Donald Trump over an executive order that the president signed, which is known as the Hispanic Prosperity Initiative, it was a great day for the Hispanic community. And certainly the CEO and president of Goya Foods went on to say the following: "We were part of a commission called the White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative, and they called on us to be there to see how we could help opportunities within the economic and educational realm for prosperity among Hispanics and among the United States." Now, the CEO of Goya Foods also reminded us that the United States is the second largest Hispanic country behind Mexico. Now, as a result of CEO Ununue taking an affinity or even praising President Donald Trump, politicians and celebrities alike took to boycotting Goya, the largest Hispanic-owned food company in the country, and especially after the CEO praised the president during an event right in the Rose Garden. Now, the CEO of Goya went on to say, quote, "We are truly blessed at the same time to have a leader like President Trump, who is a builder, who also, as a matter of fact, the CEO of Goya is of Spanish descent." Now, the president hosted Hispanic leaders recently at the White House and again signed that executive order I just mentioned concerning the White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative to ultimately use more taxpayer support for private and charter schools and to improve access by Hispanic Americans to both educational and economic opportunities. But of course, critics, especially very intellectually bankrupt ones, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and former Democratic presidential candidate Julian Castro out of Texas, as well as a number of other celebrities, took aim at the company, especially on social media, with hashtags such as, hashtag boycott Goya and Goya away. And many people urged those on social media, for those that use Goya products, to start buying similar foods and not contribute to Goya's bottom line. Now, of course, the CEO of Goya pushed back against any of the vitriol by social media, especially when it comes to politicians and celebrities, as a, quote, suppression of speech, which he's right. This is exactly what the cancel culture and today's American left love to do. When they don't like something, they want to cancel it. I don't care how you want to spin it, folks. That's the truth. And that's the problem with today's liberals. They always preach about liberalism. They always preach about tolerance. They always preach about being accepting of other ideas and other sort of narratives or rhetoric. Folks, it's complete BS. We all know it is, because they're only tolerant of what they like to hear. When they don't like something, guess what? They want to cancel it. They want to get rid of it. They want to downright eliminate it. And I don't know about you folks, for people that preach up and down about acceptance and about free speech, folks, liberals are the biggest hypocrites when it comes to this. Now, one of the things that I applaud the CEO of Goya Foods, Mr. Inouye, for not doing is for not apologizing for the remarks that he made supporting the president's economic policy. Because, folks, pre-COVID, we were experiencing the largest unemployment rate for people of color, both black and brown. And yes, that corresponds to Hispanics. Now, of course, the liberal mainstream media would never want to tell you that. And of course, today's modern Democratic Party would never want to admit to it. But say what you want, love him or hate him, like him or dislike him, the president's economic policies were working. They were working for women, and they were working for black and brown people collectively. And this is one of the things that drives the American left crazy. And of course, I've seen some outrage even manifesting itself here in New Jersey. And I've seen members of the business community having an issue with Goya, specifically the CEO of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Now, let me tell you something about Carlos Medina, folks. And this is a guy who, to his credit, has done great work, along with the president of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Luis de la Hoz, in encouraging tens of thousands of Hispanic-owned businesses to collectively come together and promote a better business climate for the Hispanic community here in New Jersey. So I'll give him credit where it's due. But the problem with people like Carlos Medina, folks, is that when you're the CEO of a nonprofit organization, which is what the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is, listen, you're entitled to have your own opinions about politics on your own social media. But when you're talking to media outlets in your capacity as the CEO, okay, of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we all know that if you follow Carlos Medina on Facebook and any other social media platforms, we all know that he dislikes the president. And that's fine. Carlos, you can dislike whoever you want. I don't really care about that. But when you're the CEO of a nonprofit, you're representing its membership. As a matter of fact, you're representing me because I'm a member, a dues-paying member of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So when you decide to speak to media outlets, guess what? You leave yourself open to critique. You can't have it both ways, man. And that's the problem with people like Carlos Medina and perhaps others in the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, who now all of a sudden want to distance themselves from Goya. Why? Because the CEO decided to speak positively and have praise for President Trump, when we all know that some within the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce don't like President Trump. And that's fine. You can like whoever you want. I don't really care. But when you take to social media, Carlos, and before you decided to block me and be petty, you decided to and I'm sort of, quoting this a little bit because I don't want to, I don't want anyone to sort of take this out of context. But I'm going to read you a quote from the statewide Hispanic, again, Chamber of Commerce CEO. All right. And this is one of the things that I would argue is probably the most alarming. Now, you won't have to say, and I'm sort of, just, trying to quote as best as I can here. The idea is you measure CEOs by their morals and their integrity, not by their profits. I'm sort of paraphrasing here. Well, let me just say this to you, Carlos. For many years, and I've attended recent galas for the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I've also attended other functions, luncheons, and even breakfasts. You've been happy to take Goya's money being a sponsor. You've been happy to have all the hot girls walking around giving us free samples of Goya foods and products to clientele and to people visiting the breakfast and luncheons alike. You've been more than happy to take advertising from Goya, but now all of a sudden you don't want to do that. You want to distance yourself from Goya because you don't like the stands, the political ones specifically, that the CEO of Goya is taking. Let me just ask you something, Carlos. Is the business practices of Amazon and Apple not concern you too? Because if you're going to hold this standard of, well, I'm going to measure a CEO of a company by its moral and integrity, not by its profits, well, are you just as outraged about the CEO of Apple and Amazon, who, let's be honest, are not fans of the president? Oh, that's right. But because you like their politics, that's not a big deal. Because I'm assuming that when you're posting on the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's Facebook page or Instagram or Twitter, you're doing it from a flip phone, right? Oh no, my bad. You're doing it from a smartphone and most likely an iPhone. All right? Or whether or not you're using Amazon to deliver products or anything else for setups at events that are sponsored by the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Well, you don't have a problem with Amazon and Apple then, do you? But now you have a problem with Apple? This is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of someone wanting to talk out of both sides of their mouth. And what was really petty, I think, by the CEO of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is when I decided to call him out on it, what does he do? He decides to block me as if he's a child, as if, God forbid, someone has a dissenting opinion. And that's okay, Carlos, because I was able to take the screenshot of it and save it from my records. Because when I ever get to talk with you about it, whether it's on this program or other media platforms that I host, I'll definitely call you out on it. But the idea that, listen, you did me a favor by unfriending me and blocking me. I was almost at 5,000 Facebook friends anyway. So you did me an enormous favor by removing me. Number one, because I don't have to lose brain cells by looking at my newsfeed and seeing posts from you. And more importantly, I don't have to lose further brain cells by looking at the commentary by some of the people that opine on your social media, such as your brother, who's another piece of work, his, your sister-in-law, his wife, or anybody else that decides to comment on your social media. That's fine. You did me the favor, Carlos, so thank you. But what I'm not going to do is let you off the hook here. And I'm going to call you out on your hypocrisy. So until the chamber officially distances itself from Goya, I don't think you have a lot to say. So once again, as your capacity as the CEO of the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, do what's best for the business community. Stay out of politics. Again, you're good at practicing law, at least from what I think so, or at least what I've heard. I don't know, I've never seen it in person. But do me a favor, stick to practicing law. Let the political commentators and the political scientists like myself, let us do the heavy work here, because clearly you're not capable of it. And when you decide to speak for an entire membership of a nonprofit organization, you put everybody's, political positions, not in peril, but you put it under the microscope. Stick to what you're good at. Don't dip your feet into waters that you know you can't swim. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. In the latest edition of the 3-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, which you can listen to live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson, was the publisher of the Hudson County Chronicles, Bruce Alston. We spoke for nearly 2 hours on a variety of different topics at both a local and state level, and here are some highlights for your consideration. First and foremost, we discussed why his name seems to remain in the headlines, specifically in Jersey City, when it comes to local news outlets, and more importantly, how some activists view him in today's political climate. Let's check out what Bruce had to say about it.
One of the biggest aspects I love about you on this program, and I've always appreciated about our rapport, Bruce, is you're very transparent, bro. Like, you've been first and foremost very honest about what it is you're doing currently, but more importantly about what's happened in your past. You don't run about you don't run from things. You're not trying to be a coward about it. And a big part of being an adult, man, is owning up to things we've done in our lives, right?
Definitely.
There are a lot of things I'm not proud of per se in my life, preferably towards women, but I own them. And I think when we grow as men, we learn to own our mistakes, and we learn to become better, and then be an example to other people, because we're human, bro. To be human is to err, and that's where I think you're one of the most genuine people I know in Hudson County, and I don't think enough people appreciate that about you and respect that about you, because you know what? At the end of the day, what you're trying to do in Hudson County, especially where you live in Jersey City, is to be a voice where there aren't a lot of genuine voices. And I think that, so your name comes up in people's mouths, and it seems like people can't keep your name out of their mouths. And unfortunately, I'm glad that you checked them, because someone has to do that.
Yeah, well, I think one of the big things is that what I find appalling is like you take a thing about the Liberty State Park issue, and it's like it's basically like that shut up and dribble moment. It's like, okay, you've had this in your past, so you can't say anything because you don't agree with us, right? But then I laugh because there's several activists that possibly were in favor of what Mr. President and with Dan Levin are advocating for over there, right? And their thing was they've had their own issues in the past. You follow me? So when we talk about it, and so your viewers will know, is that when a guy like Dan Levin believes that Bruce Alston's opinion shouldn't be valued or shouldn't be taken seriously, is because he had a legal issue in the past. He's not speaking just about Bruce Alston. That's an issue he's had with anyone, I guess, that's had trouble with the legal system or had incidents with. That speaks to a bigger narrative. So that makes me even question even more, right, that someone with that type of mindset, it's like, if you don't agree with them, right, then you're out of line. Or if you agree with them, they'll play nice, they'll play along, and they'll never bring up your past or anything, But that doesn't bother me. When people throw that at me, I kind of laugh, because I'm like, there must be some truth that I'm speaking, or they're upset that I'm resonating to people that they feel that maybe I do have influence over, right? And I do believe that a lot of people listen to my side, right? I think I do have a platform that has enough people that'll say, hey, maybe I didn't look at it that way. And I believe that platform is going to be a multicultural one, right? Where people have said to me, hey, Bruce, I didn't even know there was contaminated land down at Liberty Park. But at the same time, I mean, it's just telling that here you go, when the president is bashed and everything for some of his rhetoric, people claim, right, that you have these people, and I'll say it as white progressives, right, that throws someone's record, what they've done in the past, right, from 5 years ago, throws that out there, right, and that's acceptable. So it's like, you're just as bad as the white supremacists that you claim that you stand against, So people like Dan Levin, I mean, like I said, if I want to look at his past, I'll say, how can a man who ran for mayor in 2009 that was very adamant about Healy being corrupt and throwing all types of accusations against him, holding repeated protest actions for his removal, then 3.5 years later, he decides, you know what, I'm going to run for city council on Mayor Jeremiah Healy's ticket. If that's not self-serving, what is? So
that's right.
Jason Berg,
that's right.
He said it first. Bruce, Dan Levin's words don't mean anything. He's lost all his credibility. Maybe he's upset that there's some people that look at the full body of work, which you've been doing for your life, and don't take an isolated incident and believe that should define the man. Obviously, he believes that isolated incidents should define my whole body of work, even when he was calling me to advocate with him on different issues. And I'll say this even more. If you Google this, Bruce Alston Barclays event, right? I was the first one that was basically demanding that Liberty National provide a community give back to our community, and was even organizing a protest against them, right, asked for Dan Levin's support, and Dan Levin said he believed in diplomacy first. It's in the article. So where's his diplomacy?
Secondly, we discussed the impact that Ward E Councilman James Solomon is having on the recent primary when he decided to go against the HCDO and support progressive candidates off the line. It certainly sent some shockwaves, not just throughout Jersey City, but throughout the entire Hudson County political scene. Let's check out what Bruce had to say about it.
I want to pick your brain a little bit politically about some local things. I talked about it a couple weeks ago when I had Al Sullivan on the show, and obviously primary day is come and gone. But I found it very interesting that Ward E Councilman James Solomon decided to go against the grain, and he decided not to endorse U.S. Representative Alvaro Ceres on primary day, and instead he chose to go against the ACDO and endorse, pretty progressive candidates off the line. I don't know listen, I'll be very honest. I don't think that wasn't a smart move. I think that it could come back to bite him because, again, results haven't been posted officially, but I think it's a pretty safe bet that Alvaro Ceres in Congressional District 8 up here in Hudson County won his primary, so he'll be going into November.
Yes.
And 99.9% certain he'll retain a seat. That's not a vulnerable seat where Republicans can even steal that. That's other parts of the country. That's not New Jersey. There might be some competitive congressional seats in New Jersey, but not up here. Maybe it's down south, central Jersey per se, but not up here. But it seems like Solomon, I don't know, he kind of made a calculated decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to go with the HCDO. I'm going to endorse these ultra, left, and clearly it blew up in his face. And people have long memories, man. And don't be surprised.
Well, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you something right now. I mean, Solomon basically might have just did something that no one else could do, and that possibly was this: he might have made it very possible for Bob Menendez Sr. and Stephen Fulop to basically become allies, or to work on something.
Inadvertently,
it's and I'm going to tell you where I'm going with this. There's rumors that Bob Menendez Jr. may run for mayor. People have been meeting with people trying to gain support for him, right? A more likely scenario.
He's starting law school now this fall, so yeah. Mm-hmm.
You said what now? He's starting what?
Well, Bob Jr. is starting law school now in the fall, like coming up now in September. I mean, I don't know if you follow him on social media, but that was an announcement he just made here. So he's starting law school in the fall, I believe at Rutgers. I believe at my alma mater. So that was interesting to see that in the news feed. Yeah, but go on. I'm sorry.
Well, there's people saying that. Like I know a couple of people that have had meetings with somebody who's been serving, I guess, as an emissary as far as trying to gain support for him. I can see a very likely scenario now where Bob Menendez Jr. could possibly run for the Ward East City Council seat on Stephen Fulop's ticket, right? Mm-hmm. And that can mend the fences a little bit because Albio is very upset with him. Bill O'Day is very upset with James Solomon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It might be, let's get this guy out of there. So it's got to make you wonder: was it really worth the risk that Mr. Solomon did by supporting all these people that were against even former Councilman Lucy's wife, that to go against her? Like, he was basically making a statement that, you know what, he's anti. He's basically made a statement that he's anti-HCDO, or maybe he got the word that no, we're not going to support you for mayor, or it's something there. It's definitely something there. The way that went down.
It was a very informative and illuminating interview, to say the very least. You can listen to it in its entirety by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/talkingthehudson. These are the exclusives I'll continue to bring you throughout 2020 on Blog Talk Radio. And now to some local stories for your consideration. And let's start off in Jersey City, And a nice job by John Hines with the Hudson County View for his report on this story. And it seems to be breaking recently, ladies and gentlemen, that Jersey City Ward F Councilman Jermaine Robinson could indeed be facing domestic assault allegations. Now, Jersey City Ward F Councilman Jermaine Robinson had a warrant issued for his arrest after a police report alleges domestic assault was filed at the West District Police Station over the past weekend. Now, Robinson allegedly assaulted a woman on Friday evening, and the alleged victim filed a police report and received treatment at the Jersey City Medical Center. Several sources familiar with the investigation told Hudson County View and other local media platforms. Now, city spokeswoman Kimberly Wallace-Ciccone said that a woman filed an assault claim at the West District Police Precinct this past Sunday at midnight, though declined to mention who was involved since the investigation is ongoing. However, the address she provided of the alleged incident happens to be 237 Randolph Avenue, and that is the location of the Light Rail Cafe, an establishment that's owned by Ward F Councilman Jermaine Robinson, and is also listed as his home address according to public records. Now, after the story was initially published, ladies and gentlemen, a copy of the complaint warrant was obtained by the Hudson County View, where the alleged victim claims that Robinson threw her down a flight of stairs. As a result, she says she sustained bruises on her legs, her right arm, and her back, as well as a minor cut on her forehead. She also alleges that Robinson had been drinking all day. Now, Robinson and the Jersey Police Department did not return calls seeking comment, so it was unclear if he turned himself into authorities as of when this report was posted by the Hudson County View. Now, the elected municipal representative for Ward F has recently faced criticism for being open to the possibility of even allowing privatization at Liberty State Park. Now, folks, I very much am a believer in the presumption of innocence, so I don't want to condemn Jermaine Robinson at this time. I want to let sort of the laws of the land prevail and let all the facts come out. It certainly doesn't look very good for the councilman at the present time, but I'm not going to convict him in the court of public opinion. Again, let's let due process take its course, and let's see what happens in this case. But certainly my heart goes out to Jermaine Robinson and his family, and certainly everyone that was involved in this matter, because it's a very delicate one. And when it comes to domestic violence and domestic assaults, we all know, especially in this political and social climate, how seriously we take the matter. And that's our show for this week. To view all the excellent programming brought to you by the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air, please go to their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, www.livestream.com/HMGTV, and www.njonair.com. Don't forget to like them both on Facebook and follow them on Instagram and Twitter. And you can listen to the 3-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson. I'll continue bringing the exclusives that no one else does throughout 2020. And never forget, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, you know it's always talking politics right here with the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air. I'm Fernando Uribe. Thank you so much for watching.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/talkonthehudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.